Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Oh, I can see your little bars moving and my bars moving. I'm pretty confident this is working, Dave.
There we go.
I'm pretty confident. So this is I bought a brand new interface because I bought a fancy new interface that I tested out with Bruce the Mailboy, but all it would do is pop and sizzle. So I went back to the old style, but I took the other interface and the microphone and everything down to the Florida office, the Florida studio, so that I could do podcasts when I'm down there as well as doing them up here in Canada. So I can do them south of the 49th parallel or north of the 49th parallel.
Oh, that puts you in a uniquely powerful position.
Or maybe that's the 40th parallel. I think the 49th is north of me, actually. The 49th parallel is that main parallel that runs under British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Somebody's going to correct me, I'm sure.
Yeah, 49 is pretty far up the ladder, though.
Yeah, it's pretty far up there. All right, Dave. The reason we're here is because we're about to introduce the Springfield Report, show number 3. And as I'm sure you've listened to the other 2 already.
Oh, of course.
Do you ever listen to the podcast?
When it's convenient.
Well, seriously now, this is a good point to make because you and I have great discussions. And I don't think, let's face it, you're not really a fun guy. You're an engineer. Square
as a peg. I mean, that's
so do you listen to the fans or the viewer mail podcasts?
Most of the fans ones I listen to, and it's interesting, who reaches out to me regularly about what to listen to, what not to miss, is Rich Wisniewski.
Oh, okay.
He's amazing. We talk most days at work anyway, about work stuff. I mean, he deals with the contracts on the railroad for Amtrak and for the other third-party railroads that we deal with. And because a lot of my stations are on Amtrak territory or deal with Conrail in one form or another, Rich is a regular resource for me for actual work stuff. So we talk, periodically. But he'll say, "Oh, did you listen to viewer flight mail 47?" I said, "No." He says, "Oh, you got to do it. You came up at 20 minutes and 35 seconds, give or take a couple seconds, and you came up again right at the end. So you should make sure you listen to those 2 parts." And when Tracy was talking about this, that, or the other thing, Bruce came back in, and you'd get a kick out of it. And I said, "All right." You can always count on Rich for the detailed dissertation. And Rich, I'll tell you, not only do I appreciate it with the podcast, but I appreciate it with the Onondaga Cutoff, and I appreciate it at work. You're a tremendous resource and someone I have not just a lot of respect for, but a tremendous amount of faith in. Thank you for what you do.
I think on viewer mail number 91, we anointed him as simply the Whiz.
The Whiz. That's actually that's appropriate.
It is.
That's appropriate.
Because
there you go, Rich. Congratulations.
Yeah.
An official nickname.
Yeah, he's the Whiz.
All right.
And
well, I'll tell you what. That's I'm happy to know the Whiz. And and so yes, I would say on average I probably listen to about 2/3 of the episodes myself.
Okay.
And Rich, over the course of weeks, and it takes time. But Rich will reach out to me usually quickly after a release and be like, "Oh, make sure you don't miss this one."
Well, yeah, I know. And I ask that because some people will, I don't know, I'll meet somebody, that listens to the podcast pretty regularly, but they'll say, "Oh, I'm 6 months behind or 5." And I always say to them, you're not under any obligation to listen to them all.
It's not a passenger train, guys. It's not on we have a schedule, right?
Yeah.
But you don't need to. You can take the convenient train for you.
Yeah. Listen when you want. Listen to some of them. Listen to all of them. Listen to 2 of them. Whatever you want. It's not. You don't have to feel so. I always feel bad when they say, "Well, I haven't listened," and I'm like, you don't have to. It's not part of the task. We got little Mike Wachowski's listened to them. We got several people that have listened to all of them several times. And we got an email today. I got another email today, and it was mentioned you in the email. Everybody loves Uncle Dave. That's the whole point. Everybody loves Uncle Dave.
It's an honor to be part of it. It's meant a lot so far to the Onondaga Cutoff, and I'm thrilled with the start of the new Onondaga Cutoff Patreon channel. Appreciate your help with that and your vision with that, all the discussions back and forth with that. And, to share this with a larger community is a lifelong dream of mine. And to be able to contribute at that level means a lot to me personally. And it's the best is clearly yet to come, which is exciting.
I got this email today from a fella named Sean Carney. And he says one of his sentences, so one thing led to another, and once I started listening to the podcast, I joined the AML Patreon channel, and then found Uncle Dave's Patreon channel and joined that one too last week. So do you have one of your people as one of your Patreon subscribers as Sean Carney?
That is correct. And I sent Sean a little message through the Patreon software, and he's enthusiastic and excited. And, we're really kind of swimming out to the first wave here.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an actor. I'm not a voice person. I enjoy singing, playing triangle, playing the bongos and the congas, because they're different. Did you know that they were different, Lionel?
I was going through West Virginia.
Did you know they were, just a simple question, did you know they were different?
I did not know they're different. And actually, honestly, I really don't care.
Well, that's a different question. That's why I didn't ask that.
Earlier, I told you, we're coming to the subject of why you're here tonight. Earlier, I told you I had this. I remember now when I was listening to Ralph talk about the triangle. I was going through West Virginia, and I had to slow down because the road curves, so much, and you're going at speed on the interstate. And I had to slow down. I was laughing so hard when you started talking about the triangle.
It is a great interview.
Okay, so that's why we're here. It's because this is the Springfield Report, show number 3, and we listened to first up is we listened to a young lady named Bailey, who's from ScaleTrains, and we interviewed her before they introduced their Jeep 30. And then we interviewed her again afterwards. So we talked to her. Then we talked to a fellow named Todd Arnett. Then we talked to Shane Wilson again, who after they introduced their Jeep 30. Then we talked to their winner of their paint scheme contest. And then Tom Jacobs did a really good interview with a fellow named Jeff Springer from Custom Model Railroads, and in Baltimore. We got to get him on the podcast too, because he was great. And then at the end of this particular series of interviews, it's Tom Schmieder and Ralph Heiss. And I worked those two guys over pretty good.
They are both great friends of mine, big time contributors in the Onondaga Cutoff, and people that have grown to, like so many good people in the hobby have the ability to do. They've grown to be very, very close friends of my family and myself. For people I've only met, 8 or 10 years ago, there's people I should have met 35 or 40 years ago, just good souls. And it's a pleasure to listen to them talk through their experience on the Onondaga Cutoff. And I'm excited to be able to share that with the larger community here. This is an exciting one for me personally.
So neither one of them were like, when I met them, they came up to the booth, and neither one of them were like, no, we don't want to be interviewed. And then I talked to Tom, and Tom was great. And I was kind of, I was working him. Both of these guys I worked over pretty good. And then Ralph was like, I'm not going to be on. And I'm like, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. I said, you can't come here. I can't.
They both did great.
Yeah.
They both did great. And Ralph, it's time to get to the interviews. Let's jump in.
All right. I just want to talk. So I decided Ralph is a kind of a character. So I was giving him a hard time about you playing the bongos and the congas and everything. And then he starts talking about you playing the triangle. Because I was like, is that all he does? You're on
Yeah,
base.
I was on a I was on a world tour of Tambourine and Triangle. They called it TNT tour. Tambourine and Triangle.
When you listen to this, it's so funny. I'm like, I was laughing so hard. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna listen to these two guys, all these folks talk, and then we'll discuss. We'll have post show notes when we're all done. Go for it.
Subway chime, go.
So how did it go?
Well, fantastic. Had a few technical difficulties, but overall the announcement was a lot of fun.
Was it?
Yeah.
I know. I've heard nothing but good comments about it all day. I think everybody's excited about the GP30.
Well, we've had a lot of folks come up, say if they weren't here for the reveal and coming to see the new locomotive, and it seems like a really good success.
I've heard there's 100 people were here.
It's been busy. You know what? For a snowstorm kind of day, we have been, after that initial kind of, once it got started,
Yes.
boy, it's been steady all day.
That's what I thought. There was initial, at first it was like, uh-oh, and then around 10:30 it started to, and there's been steadiness all day.
Yep.
Hasn't been horrible at all. But I've had a lot of people saying they're very excited about your GP30.
Well, you know what I'm most excited about?
What?
I got to get in the AML photo today.
I know. How cool
I feel
is
like
that?
I've arrived.
I've posted that on the AML fans page.
Oh, I'm going to share that.
Yeah, I got to send it to Bailey so you can put it on your page.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we've decided, you know what we've decided? After that, we've decided that the AML gang is the animal house of model railroading.
I agree. I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
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 You're like the John Belushi.
Yeah, we're like...
Look at that.
Yeah, exactly. We're coming over to your booth. We don't care. We're coming. So the whole thing was a smashing success?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, we before we did the Jeep 30 announcement, we did the design contest. We talked about that earlier. And what was really cool is, this gentleman right here, he was the winner, and he was here live, so we got to tell him live and watch the shock and awe on his face.
Right.
Which was a lot of fun.
What's his name? Do you remember?
Oh, Lord, I don't. I have to go cheat. I don't.
Okay.
I've met so many people today that
Right.
I'm getting amnesia.
What's his... Hey, buddy. Hey, stop that guy. Okay, Jesse, just hang around because we're going to interview you after I'm finished with him. Okay? All right.
Lionel wants to make you a celebrity.
Yeah.
Because you already are, right?
So anyway, so you introduced the guy that had the winning design.
Yeah, we introduced Jesse. I apologize. I forgot his name there for a moment.
And I'll edit all that out.
Oh, good.
Actually, I edit most of your stuff out.
Good.
And it's usually just
that's
me.
That's why it sounds so good. I got it now.
So I'm confused. What exactly did he design?
So what we did is we took the ES44 locomotive, the Gevo,
right,
and we said, take this locomotive and use our new logo and we kind of changed some of the colors a little bit. Same colors, just kind of the scheme a little bit. And we had 60 entries, and folks came up with all kinds of clever ideas. And he can tell you all about his design.
Right.
So
it's a freelance design then.
It's freelance design, yeah.
And you're going to paint it. You're going to paint locomotives and sell it.
Yeah, it's on our website right now. You can go and place a pre-order now.
Okay.
And we'll ship them later this year.
And is it like a particular local road or independent road?
No, it's at ScaleTrains. It's got
it says ScaleTrains.
Yeah, it's got
I got a feeling that'll be kind of popular.
Well, it's got a New York Central-esque look to it. It's really sharp.
All right.
Very railroady feel.
All right.
And I actually think it's going to do really well.
Okay, so first thing you did was announce that guy, Jesse, Jesse guy's name.
Yep.
Winner. He's kind of hanging around a lot, eh?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't forget his name like I just did because it was terribly embarrassing.
Yeah. Don't forget Bob's name. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Don't mess me up like that, Lionel.
Yeah. All right. So then you announced the Jeep 30.
We announced the Jeep 30.
Why Jeep 30? What was the process where you ended up at a Jeep 30?
Well, we did the SD45 probably about 2 or 3 years ago now. And that got us into the 1960s, and then we really wanted another locomotive in that era. And the Jeep 30 has been done before, but it was done well. It was the old Lifelike proto model, but that's probably 30 years old now. And with what we can do in tooling today, at the time that was a fantastic model, but what we can do today is so much further along with the technology. And we felt like it was time to make the definitive model. And this is actually my favorite locomotive. I love the GP30. I think it's got this really mean look to it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else like it. And I've already threatened my wife. I'm like, I might have to have one of each of these in the showcase because they look really cool.
How did you decide on? So how do you decide on the paint schemes? Because I've already had somebody come over to me and say, I really wanted a Reading one. And how do you decide on the 6 paint schemes? Like, to me, I don't think I could be in your business because I would constantly be going, is that the right decision? Maybe not. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that.
One of the goals on the first production run is always to kind of show the variety of what you can do.
Okay.
So we've got the CSX Roadmate or RDMT Slug. So that's a real unique locomotive. You got the Pennsy with the train phone antennas. You've got UP with the B units. So that's real unique. And then the Rio Grandes have the light package on them. And the NNWs have the high hood, so it kind of gives you that whole variety of what you can do with the tooling. Kind of, and there's a lot more that we can do too. And then we also try to spread out locations, right? So you got some Western road names, you got some Eastern road names, some Southern road names, Midwest, because you want to appeal to all kinds of customers. And then we sit down. I think we've got about eight production runs already planned out on the Jeep 30, yeah.
Okay.
And a lot more we can do after that too. But and in each one of those runs, you try to have that mix so that you're not always coming to the same customer all the time. And then you save some things for later, right? Like we're doing the chassis rebuilds, and we're doing the BNSF rebuilds, and we're doing the Santa Fe rebuilds. So there'll be some other things down the road that...
So I got a question for you. I don't think I've ever asked you. And we've had a lot of interviews and had a lot of talking. And I know you've loved every one of them.
It has been the highlight of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine too. I love the way you're talking about all the production runs down the road and you're planning them out and all that. Like, it sounds like you guys are planning on being a really big company.
Well, I'll tell you, one of our goals that we set, and it's in the original business plan, is we said that we wanted to earn the respect of the modeling community and be considered a top-tier manufacturer. And we said we want to do that within 5 years of shipping. And so now we're, in our 6th year. So hopefully we've earned that respect. And it's that we've been very blessed, and the business has grown a ton. And
right. And you've already established the top-tier manufacturing.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. That means a lot.
And that conversation we had about the Erie Lackawanna thing, that's exactly it. But I'm kind of, I want to delve into the mind of, what is that? What was it? The button-down mind of Shane Wilson.
Well, that's a scary place.
But it sounds like, okay, all right, have these meetings changed in the last 6 years where at first you were like, let's build something, and now you're building a Jeep 30 and you've got all these production runs planned out into the future? Like, you weren't doing that at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we were.
Really, eh?
Yeah, we...
So what made you guys so convinced that... that's pretty hip. It sounds more like you've taken a look of, I don't know, Samsung, some other... I always thought Toyota. Toyota. I can remember Toyota in the late 70s. You didn't buy a Toyota.
Yep,
it was a rust bucket.
Yep.
You bought a Toyota, it fell apart, don't buy a Toyota. And it almost seems like their plan was eventually they were going to take over the world. And I know that's not your plan to take over, but your plan is obviously very lofty. Lofty's a fair word.
Yep.
It seems like your plan is lofty.
Well, something happened a few years ago where we finally came to the conclusion that we just need to march to our own drummer. There's competitors out there, but we need to focus on what we do and do it to the best of our abilities. And if we cross paths with some other folks in the industry, it just happens. And we just want to produce the best possible models. And as part of that, you do really have to plan. And so for us, even right as we started the company, in May of 2014 when we left, in June of 2014 we had our first annual strategic planning, and we look out 3 to 5 years all the time, and we're looking at not just, and the other thing, it's not just about product, right? We're looking at what can we do from the web standpoint, what can we do from a marketing standpoint, what can we do from trade shows, or that's where the road trip comes from. All these things we're always trying to. If you hang around me long enough, it's funny, Michelle gives me a hard time when we're traveling down the road, and I'll be like, hey, I've got an idea. And she's like, I know, I'll write it down.
Right. How do you keep track of them all? I can never keep track of all my ideas.
Well, she types them up for me, so that helps me a lot.
Yeah,
you need a Michelle.
And do you ever know? I got a Barb. And is there any moments when you read something that she typed down and you went, What the hell was
Who was that idiot?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just about 90% of the time. There's only very few of those ideas that make the light of day. But
Okay. So from an interesting standpoint, I mean, the world is changing so fast. You're talking about web development and things like that. How do you manage to try to figure out what you got to do next in 5 years? I mean, it's fascinating for me. I mean, let's face it. You and I have been talking now.
7 years.
Chicago RPM and having these discussions.
Yeah.
And which is one of the things I've enjoyed the most is, kind of following along. And, like I've always said to you, I feel like I can ask you any question. So how does a company in Benton, Tennessee start thinking about what is the world going to be like in 5 years?
That's a tough question to answer. I mean,
like how do you have these meetings where, I mean, you and I think, have the same thought process of, like, this hobby's going to absolutely explode.
Yeah, absolutely it is. It already is.
It already is now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
Yeah,
when is the
we're
lava
here.
going to stop flowing?
Yeah, that part scares me to death.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because at some point, you can only be on this rocket ship trajectory that you're on, and then it's got to start to plateau some or
somewhere
or wane down. Yeah.
Yeah. But even if it plateaus, the reason it's going so high, if it dips another, now you're 5 miles into the stratosphere. If it dips a mile, you're still in the stratosphere.
Oh yeah. And because of the growth, we're in a financial position. You can weather that storm now too.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you guys try to figure out what to do 5 years out when nobody really can tell?
You know what's really crazy? There's a lot of things we wrote in that first business plan. It's been almost 8 years ago we wrote the plan that we still haven't done yet. And you take those ideas and you continue to meld them based on where the world's at and the industry and the hobby and all those things. And you'll see, like, over the next year, some things that we've had on the docket for 7 years will finally come to fruition from a services standpoint next year, or actually later in 22 and into 23. And you just listen to what the customer wants.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, people come up and they'll make a comment to you, and you're like, I don't want to be really obvious, but I'm going to write this down real quick because that was really good.
Yeah.
The best ideas are stolen, I guess.
Yeah.
But well, I wish there was a simple answer to that.
No,
But
I understand it's a tough question, but it's an interesting question because the company has obviously been successful. So it's kind of like, I think you tweaked me when you said, we think about web development, like who the hell knows what web development's going to be like in 5 years?
Yeah, well, but you look at like the web platform that we just went on to, and I'll sneak peek a couple of things for you. There's a loyalty program coming. Well, we've had that on the docket for years.
That's a great idea.
Because we want, there's folks, it blows me away the dedication to our brand and how much money some people spend. I can't, it's mind-boggling.
Right.
And you want to make sure that you take care of those people, right? Yeah. We're working on a system where it's called, it's a notification system. And let's say we're sold out on something on pre-order. And you say, hey, I'm really interested in this product. I know it's sold out. If you get any cancellations, let me know. The system's going to go out every night and look at any cancellations that happen that day, and then it'll send you an email, say, Lionel, this thing you're looking for is available now. Come pre-order it. First come, first serve. Okay. So that way, we're trying to give more service to the customer. And so we're looking at more things. So how can we take better care of the customer? How can we take, what's the retailer future look like? How are we going to handle retail? All those kind of things, and you just continue to ebb and flow, and you bob and you weave. And unfortunately, there's so many things that we want to do, but we just can't seem to get them done fast enough.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a hardball question, and then I'll leave you alone.
Okay.
Jeep 30 thing went well.
Yes, it did.
But one of our regular guys on our show, one of our crew, Tom Jacobs, he's modding a giant Reading layout. I call it Reading, but it's Reading. Apparently. He wants you to do the Jeep 30 in Reading, and I said I'd ask.
Pretty likely.
Pretty likely. Nice.
Yeah.
Is that because I asked?
Absolutely.
Boy.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a hardball question. This because it's a question I'm interested in.
Wait a minute, you just asked me one.
That was a softball question. You guys seem to not be retailer friendly necessarily, where you guys are like very much, which I kind of agree with, is you're very much online sales, sell from your point, sell from, what do they call that? Drop shipping or something? Where you guys do the selling of the
fulfillment,
product? Yeah. So, I mean, so I'm interested in that because it's not, it seems like your bailiwick is more concentrated on.
Well, if you're going to ask me that question, I have to give you a little history.
Okay.
When we started the company, of course, I came from Horizon. I'd been in wholesale sales for years and worked with retailers. We had a pursuit list of about 1,000 dealers when we started, and we had what we called A's, B's, and C's. A's were the guys, got to get these guys on board. They're the best of the best.
Right.
Your B's are the guys you really want to have, and the C's are like, if they come along, great, and if they don't, great.
Yeah.
And we had about 300 A's and B's that we really wanted in the first year.
Right.
By the end of the first year, we had less than 50. A year and a half into it,
we
went
still
had
from 300 to 50?
Well, they never came on board. It's just our pursuit list who we're trying to get.
Right, yeah.
And
so let's clarify that because this is great. This is a great story. So you guys start the company. You got 300 on your pursuit list.
Over 1,000, but 300 we really
wanted. You go to these 300 guys, and basically 250 say, "No, we're not really interested."
Yeah, they're telling us, you're going to do to us what every other manufacturer's done that's got started, where, quote, we're going to build your business, and then you're going to pull the rug out from under us and sell direct.
Right.
And I had people I'd known in this industry for 25, 30 years, and I'm like, you know me. You have our word that we're not going to do that. We're going to sell alongside you.
Right.
But we're not going to undercut you. It's going to be above board. And they just wouldn't come on board. I mean, people I've known forever. And so, a year into it and a lot of money into it, it's like, guys, I remember having conversations with some of my good friend dealers at the time. You're leaving us no choice but to be aggressive direct because we got a ton of money invested in this. I'm not going to lose my family's life savings, and neither the other guys. So you're leaving us no choice but to get very aggressive direct. And what happened was about a year and a half here, actually happened here at Springfield, we announced the ET44, the Tier 4 Gevo, and suddenly dealers were finally interested in carrying our product.
Okay, yeah.
Well, we add some dealers, and we get to the pre-order deadline, and you're thinking, okay, we add these dealers, and sales should grow incrementally, right? What happened was we just shifted those sales to the dealers and lost the profit margin.
Okay.
And at that point, I'm like, we're not doing this anymore.
Right.
We'll keep the dealers who've been with us from day one. We'll support them. They'll keep their margins the whole 9 yards. But we're not going to give up any more margin because it takes, if there's one thing I've learned in this business, it takes a tremendous amount of money to run a successful, larger model railroad company.
Right.
And so we shifted all of our gears and all of our resources and funding and everything to building that direct business.
Right.
We sell to dealers at the same price we sold 2 years ago. They make the same profit margin. We still support them. We have no plans to go away.
These are the original guys.
The original guys. Let me make that really clear. We have no plans to move away. And in fact, you will actually see likely at some point we will very targeted add some brick and mortar retailers in certain places where we don't have representation. But the whole goal there, just like it was several years ago, is an incremental growth of business, not to shift the business away from us to that brick and mortar retailer.
Right. Which is why the interviews with you are so great, because that was I could tell on your face you were kind of like, wow, that's a tough question, and how do I answer it? But that's a great answer. I mean, it makes sense. When you started, you went out, you looked for guys, people that jumped on board, you're loyal to them.
Absolutely we are.
But if you didn't jump on board at the start, sorry.
Yeah.
There's only so much we can do. It did turn out we were really successful, and no, you can't jump on now because the bus is full.
Yeah, and we tried. Man, did we try. And I can't tell you how hard the emails and the phone calls and the personal visits, people that I've known forever just wouldn't come along. And it's like, well, I mean, I'm not going to lose my house and my cars and my family.
Well, that's something you and I have in common. I mean, I run my own business since I was 25 years old, and there's a limit. You get to a point like, hey, man, this is my money on the line here, and I don't want to live on a park bench.
No, I don't want to live in a cardboard box. I don't think. I'm sure my wife wouldn't.
Yeah, because if you're not careful, you end up living in a van down by the river.
Yeah, yeah, because you've literally invested everything you have.
Yeah. I know. I remember those days. Yep. I remember you were out there. You were out there. You invested everything. Yep. But look what you did.
Now, it's not just me. I mean, I got to give a credit to the other
There's the other guys.
The whole team.
The whole guys. Yeah, absolutely. The ScaleTrains group.
Yeah. Well, I want to make that real. I mean, because
it made it clear over the years. There is a group. You just happen to be the front man.
I'm the face. God help us.
You're the front man. Yeah, I know.
face for radio.
That I'm not exactly sure how that came up. Hey, we need a guy that can stand out in front. Well, how about that little short guy?
Well, they all, who wants to do this? They all stepped back, and I wasn't smart enough to figure out what was going on.
Yeah. Then they gave you a shower, and you shrunk another 3 inches. And...
Ouch. Oh, goodness.
What size shirt do you wear?
I wear a large.
You like them tight, do you?
No. I'm wearing a large right now.
All right, that's it. I'm giving you a break. I'm letting you go now.
Thanks for the hardball question. I appreciate it.
Finish up with and the next thing will be a road trip report, so that's a pretty soft.
Yep, we're going to Florida, coming down your neck of the woods.
No, I think I'm going to be able to find you somewhere along the way.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, and I'm going to be in Florida till about the 17th or 18th. So
you're going to interview Bear, right?
Yeah, I'm going to interview Bear. Yeah. Hey, I like that Bailey. I think she's got a lot of energy.
She is high energy.
She's going to be good. All right. Say goodbye. Now we're going to talk to this guy. Let's get this.
Say goodbye.
Jesse. Yeah, say goodbye.
Goodbye, Lionel. Thanks for having us.
You're all right. Let go of the microphone. There you go. Send that guy over there now. What's your name?
I am Jesse Gehring. I'm from Western PA.
How do you spell your last name?
Gahring.
Jesse Gehring.
Yep.
So how do you fit into this whole thing? We're standing in the ScaleTrains booth. What is this all about? How'd you end up here?
So they did the whole engine design contest.
I don't know much about it. What was this?
Okay, so it was a design that they came up with, and it was for their new logo that they came out with, and they put a contest online for anybody in the public could design a paint scheme for this ES44.
Right.
And you could send it in to them, and they would pick a winner at the end of it. So.
Wow.
And I happened to win it.
And so you knew ahead of time?
That I won?
Yeah.
No, I had no idea until 11 o'clock today.
Really?
Yes, I had no idea. What they did was they picked 3 top finalists out of the 60 plus.
Right.
And they sent me an email saying that was at least the top 3 finalists.
Okay.
And then they would announce the winner here at the show.
So if you wanted to come.
Yes. Yep. Which I was already coming. So it was nice because I was like, hey, I'll be at the show. And then that's when they decided to do a live interview with me before they announced the winner.
Oh, neat.
And then the winner just happened to be me, which is just awesome and ecstatic.
So you were excited about it?
Oh, yes. It's really, very exciting, and it made me take all that hard work I put into this design and made it worth it.
So how'd you come up with the idea for the design?
It was just kind of a mixture. I like GE demos. I like the New York Central, Conrail, CSX.
So is there a picture of it somewhere?
They have one here, but they haven't posted it. I have it on my phone. If you want to look at it, I'll show it to you real quick.
Sure. Get her out there. Let's get her out there and let me take a gander at this thing.
Okay, so here's the design for you.
Oh, that is cool. Nice.
So,
I like that.
as
So
you
it's
can
red
see-
and black and gray.
Yeah, so you had to use their colors
Okay.
and use their logos.
Right.
And you could design whatever you wanted to do on the side.
Wow, that is
And
pretty slick.
like I said, as you can see, there's a little bit of New York Central in there.
Yeah.
C&W. It kind of has like that demo feel.
And how long did it take you to come up with that?
I had like 3 different designs as I kept going along. And by the time I was done, it was probably at least a good 3 days worth of work.
Right.
And
did you do this on a computer?
yep, on a computer.
And do you have some sort of background in doing that stuff?
Not really, just from me doing some stuff for Train Simulator World and Train Sim. When they did that back in the day, I did quite a bit of that, just paint schemes and stuff.
Right, yeah.
And then I started doing stuff for iRacing.
Okay.
I'll paint up like the sprint cars and modifies and stock cars.
I should get your email address and you can do my racing cars.
Oh heck yeah! I'll paint you up something.
Would you?
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure.
That would be cool because I'm only interested in the racing. I'm not interested in the painting.
Okay. Yeah.
So my cars are
it's a pain. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
but I enjoy doing it.
like my cars are red and white or orange or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got quite a few guys out there running some of my designs.
Oh, cool. That would be a lot of fun.
And once I saw that they were doing this contest, I was joking around with my buddies, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna. Because they kept announcing, we're going to do our first 4-axle engine. And everybody's always wanting to say GP30. And I was like, I'm just going to design a GP30 and send it to them just to mess with them.
Right.
But then I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll actually do this. And, so I worked on it, and I sent it in, and here we are today.
So how much did you feel like your design had a chance?
Once they posted it online, and I started reading the comments, I was like, okay, a lot of them are saying they really like mine. And the other 2 were really good also.
Right.
So I was kind of nervous, but when I was reading the comments and how many likes, mine had compared to the other ones and stuff, I had a little bit of confidence in me, but then again, you never know.
Cool thing, eh?
Yeah,
Very
it's
cool.
really cool. And like I said, I appreciated ScaleTrains for doing this contest because it was just really neat.
All right, so let me ask Jesse Guerin.
Yep.
How old are you?
I am 29.
29?
Yep.
So you're perfect. You're exactly the kind of guy. Have you ever heard of our podcast?
My friend Chris listens to it, and I've heard, so.
All right,
Yep,
so you know of it?
Yep.
Know of it. So you're the perfect guy I want to talk to because I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that this hobby is way younger than people think. I think there is a ton of guys under the age of 35, mid-30s and lower that are coming along in this hobby because they all have the ability to connect now with internet and everything. I think this hobby has a ton of guys under the age of 35.
Oh yeah. I mean, I actually run an MTH O-Scale group on Facebook.
Right.
And there's 6 plus 5K members in it. And a lot of us are, 30 and under and, 40, 60, 70,
Right.
But a lot of them are the younger crowd. And with the new technologies and stuff that they're putting in these locomotives, and it just really shows where technology's gone. And the younger crowd like me, we understand it. And it's just really cool to see what we can do. Definitely you can start programming and changing horns and sounds. I mean, it's really cool. So, it's a hobby. It ain't going away.
It ain't
That's
going
for
nowhere.
sure.
I think it's growing like crazy.
Yep.
Me personally, you'll hear this as the years go by. You'll hear this again. I think the hobby's going to explode, and we're all going to be covered in model railroad goo.
It's a good possibility, that's for sure. So.
All right. Is there anything you want to... I got to get your email address so I can get you to do my iRacing.
Yeah,
car.
for sure, yeah.
All right.
I'll hand it to you.
All right. That'd be cool. We'll figure out a way for you to give it to me. I'm
Okay.
going to talk to that Bailey. So that was cool.
All
You
right.
won. What did you get for it?
So the winner, as I won, I got my engine actually gets designed and becomes into production.
Right.
So you can go on ScaleTrains.com right now and pre-order my design.
Right.
So I get the engine for free. And then I also got like a $100 gift card to ScaleTrains.
Okay,
so
cool.
pretty
And
cool.
a T-shirt.
Yeah, and I got a T-shirt. So
All right.
it made it worth it to me.
All right. Yeah. Just it's a cool thing. It's an accomplishment.
Yep.
It'll always, that design and that locomotive will always be out there.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is you'll end up seeing it on layouts and stuff.
Yeah, and then being, with 60 plus designs sent in and being the winner, it's just, I never would have thought at all that mine would have been picked.
Yeah.
But the guys and the girls at ScaleTrains, they said that they really liked mine too, and they're glad that I won. And it was just one of those designs that was just slick, clean, and it looked like it's something that would be a real locomotive.
Yeah, that's what
So.
I talked to Shane before 11 o'clock, before I announced anything, and he said yours was like walking away in the office was the one.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. I had no idea until he actually told me there on stage, and I was like, oh, yeah.
All right,
So.
cool. Thank you very much.
Yep, no
Jesse.
problem.
Okay, I'm back with Bailey.
You lost your sunglasses, though. You're not as cool as you were earlier.
Well, I've aged. So how did it go?
Today has been very educating. I've enjoyed every aspect of it.
Yeah?
It's really nice to see and meet the people that we're doing this for.
Right.
It really puts a reason to our practice.
Okay. And how did the announcement go?
It went really well. We had some sound issues, but other than that, I think people were really excited. They've been coming over and taking tons of pictures and videos and making sure all the detail, our rivet counters, of course, making sure all the details are correct.
Did you know what a rivet counter was before you got it? You didn't know what a rivet counter was before you started working here.
I never knew model trains was this big before I started working at ScaleTrains.
So it's okay. So the rivet counters, how do you deal with that? As a complete newbie to the hobby, some guy comes up and says, on the third panel, instead of 42 rivets, there's actually 47.
I look at them and I say, well, I have no idea. I'm not a modeler. I am not a hobbyist, but let's find an answer together. So normally I will rope in Shane or I'll rope in Paul Ellis, who's part of our product development team in California. And I just sit there and I listen intently to conversation. I try to retain all the information. And then the next time someone comes and asks a similar question, at least I've got more details than I did previously.
Yeah. And then you point them to somebody else.
And then I point him to someone else.
So what are you going to, when you get back here after your first experience of a train show, what do you think is going to be your focus for your job going forward? Have you picked up any ideas of things you want to do going forward?
I've talked to several other people from MRH and just getting to meet the NMRA people and the people that we're sending ads to, having those conversations with them, seeing what's productive with them, because I don't always have the time to have those conversations through email.
Right.
So having them in person is just bridges all the separations that I might have had or confusion I might have had, or talking about which railroads might be represented best in a certain magazine versus another. And it helps frame out the picture where we can really customize the experience we want to provide for our customers.
You're a complete newbie at this. Like, it's just when you said which are the locomotives and which magazines, and I'm thinking...
I'm trying to keep up.
I don't even know that. Not even. I mean, I wouldn't know that anyways. It would take me years to learn. And now here you are trying to figure that out.
This meeting our customers is making the technical aspect of my job ever so easy in my mind. So whenever I get back and I go to resume, I feel like I'm going to have a newfound passion and just trying to make ScaleTrains the best that it can be.
Okay, so what exactly, again, is it your job? Like, are you going to have something to do with advertising going forward now that you replace Holly?
So I'm doing website graphics. I'm doing all of our show booth designs, all of our foam core signs, our packaging, of course, anything you see on the road trip, merchandise.
Who's in charge of advertising?
Holly.
Okay, was that going to be you now?
Unsure. Well, Shane and I will probably share the job, and I know Bruce, our HR and operations manager, is going to definitely help in and just we're full force ahead, just keep pushing.
All right. You should maybe advertise on a podcast.
You know, I think I know someone that has a pretty cool podcast.
You know, I've struggled with that. We have no advertisers. Mm-hmm. We have what's called a Patreon channel. So every Monday you get a free podcast, and every Tuesday, if you're a Patreon member, there's another podcast.
Now, you know we do advertising with Moving America because they have advertising. So if you're looking to get into something like that, I'm sure those guys would be more than willing to help you out.
What's Moving America?
Moving America podcast is a podcast. One of the gentlemen lives, I think, in North Carolina, John, and I'm not sure who the other gentleman is off the top of my head right now.
There's other podcasts?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, knock me down with a feather and call me dirty.
Goodness. They are both in the industry.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a model-specific podcast by any means, but they
do you advertise on that?
We do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We do on a monthly basis, and it's been going really well. And
all right.
It's really refreshing to have some people, that are in the industry, but also have model train knowledge, and they're supplying that for their viewers and listeners too.
So how do you establish how many, do you know how many listeners they have or anything like that?
I know Holly, Shane, and the owners of Moving America sat down and we're looking at statistics and percentages and just like how many viewers do you get? What is their potential ROI? Like, where is this really going to go?
ROI, it means we don't do
return
acronyms.
of investment. Yes,
okay.
Yes. So, being business-minded and moving forward at the pace we are, things you got to think about.
All right. Yeah, I'm still not sure I want to advertise. Because my problem is once you get an advertiser, then you got to be...
And they do it, they don't beat you over the head with it. They open their podcast. This podcast is presented by ScaleTrains.com. Find their newest locomotive, AKA whatever that is at the time, on their website. Visit them. They're supporting us. Go check them out. And then short, sweet, to the point.
Right, yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that's it. Okay. So you've had your first locomotive announcement. You've had your first train show. You must be exhausted. I like this padded floor. I need some more of this. This makes a difference.
It's a back saver for sure.
Yeah,
I still really feel like I'm going off of the adrenaline of everything.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's snowing so hard outside, I've never seen this weather before.
Really?
Never seen over maybe 2 inches.
You know what we call this in Canada?
What?
Winter.
Everyone's talking about the nor'easter coming to get us.
Yeah.
Walmart was cleared out last night.
Really? Yeah, well, it kind of missed us. This is actually kind of not much of a storm.
I knew whenever we flew up here, they were expecting maybe 12 to 18 inches.
Farther east, it's a worse storm, but here it's just a storm.
This is nothing. This is, like you said, this is winter.
It's winter. It happens. 3-4 times a winter this happens.
It comes, it goes,
It goes, yeah. By this time in July, you'll be going, snow? Oh, it's snow.
You'll be wishing for it with how hot it is.
Don't you hate that? When people are complaining about how cold it is, and then July comes around, they're complaining about how hot it is, and it's like, come on.
I've really tried to slow down recently and just enjoy what's happening in the present.
Right.
And so I think even coming this weekend, I ended up having to replace Drayton because he was going to come, and he ended up getting COVID. So, I had maybe a little over 24 hours warning that I was coming to the show. So buying warm clothes, making sure I had the right shoes, getting everything together. It's just been full force ahead, like I said.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think I'm going to talk to Todd. We have a
Yes.
We have a history.
Oh, you do?
We do.
Well, I'm going to let you go, and y'all can have fun.
Let me tell you my Todd Arnett story.
I'm going to need to hear this one.
This is a great story.
Oh, Todd, he's telling on you.
I'm telling my Todd Arnett story. You've heard it 1,000 times. So, I've had the podcast for 7 years. 3 years ago, Todd says to me, "Hey, I help run the Norfolk and Western Historical Society. You ought to come to our next convention, and you could do some podcasts and interview some people." And I'm like, "Sure, okay.
Sign me up.
Yeah, well, I wasn't that anxious. I tried to play hard to get.
Oh.
But eventually I agreed to go. So, and it was in Salisbury, which I really like. In Salisbury, North Carolina, which is actually a Harley-Davidson dealership there that I really like. So this was going to work out perfectly. So I went to my home in Florida. I drove down to my home in Florida. I thought, I'm going to go down there for a week, play a little bit of poker with my buddies, and then I'll hit the convention on the way back. So the day comes. It's a Friday. I jump in my car. It's about a 6-7 hour drive to Salisbury. Jump in my car, drive up there the whole time. And my buddy Seth Gartner, who's a doctor, an emergency room doctor, he says, "Hey, I'll see you this weekend at the." So I'm thinking the whole time. I'm thinking, yeah, okay. So I'm driving up there the whole day. Hey, this will be great. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. I get into the parking lot, and I don't see any sign of this convention. I'm thinking, well, that's kind of odd. I go into the hotel, in the lobby, and there's usually tables set up, registration, this and that. There's nothing. Nada.
Uh-oh.
Nothing. I'm thinking, okay, I guess these guys are going to set it all up tomorrow morning. Shame on them, or fools on them, because there'll be a lot of work for them doing it tomorrow morning. And I walk up to the desk, I said, yeah, I got a reservation. Name is Strang. I said, I'd like my room. And the guy looks at me and goes, "I don't have a reservation." "Oh, yeah, you do. I made this reservation a couple of months ago." "No, sir." And then there's a pause, and he goes, "I got one for next weekend, if you'd like that."
Oh, no. You were just too excited.
Yeah, I was just
Mr. Try to play it cool.
Yeah. So give that microphone to Todd now, and I'll get into a little chit-chat.
I'll let you have it.
All right, my turn. Hi, Lionel.
Hi, how you doing? So how did this
Pretty
GP30 thing go?
I think it went very well. Partially the best-kept secret in the hobby, but nonetheless, I think it went very well, and it's going to be highly accepted.
Yeah, and it's a lot of cool paint schemes. How long you've been involved with this, right? Now, if I remember the story, you got involved with Shane because you were a Norfolk and Western guy. Mm-hmm. You didn't really know him before ScaleTrains, did you?
I did. We actually met via Facebook. He put a request out for some information. I think it was for the Crescent cabs for the SD60E, back when he was at Athern.
Oh, okay.
And then we started corresponding back and forth, and that was the beginning of the friendship.
Okay, and was that very early, much longer before the start of ScaleTrains?
That was probably a year prior, year and a half.
All right. And from then, that friendship just grew right away.
Oh, yeah, we're pretty good friends. We do a lot of stuff together outside of the hobby.
Yeah. All right. So tell me about this ride of ScaleTrains. Like, tell me, I'm looking at it today, and the thing just seems to get smoother and smoother. And
yeah. I do remember in the beginning, and to tell your listeners, my involvement is just strictly as a consultant, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But I see everything that they do and have done, and it was just started from the ground up operation. There's always hiccups. These guys put their own capital into it, their personal capital, and there were hiccups like with the tank cars and the Big Blow, the production sample. It was just one headache after another, and it just got smoother. And, of course, you see Shane has brought on many people.
Yeah.
So it's more streamlined, and that's how business goes.
So what do you think is what do you think has happened with the hobby since you and I got to know each other? I know what I think, and if you listen to, I know you listen to some of the podcasts and some of them twice, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
The hobby. I mean, man, what is this? This is something you and I would have never imagined this 7 years ago.
No. I mean, to compare these products to what I have from 10, 12 years ago, it's just a world of difference.
Yeah.
And I think everyone has raised their own bar.
Right.
In the level of detail and operational characteristics and dependability. The technology is always growing, changing for the better. So it's amazing that we're looking at all these products that we never thought would have existed even a decade ago.
Yeah, I mean, I was over at my booth and people are coming over. Have you seen the GP30? Have you seen the GP30? And it's just like people's eyes are bugging out of their head with the excitement of this thing. I mean, not everybody wants that particular road name or that particular locomotive, but you can't help but get excited.
Yeah, because I think, and I don't know this for certain, from Shane's mouth, I'm sure the GP30s are going to be like the SD40-2. They're going to have a lot of longevity as far as schemes and variations. And I'm sure there's dozens of road names and schemes on the list to do.
Right. So what's happening with your layout?
My layout has been dismantled. So went through some changes here over the past year and a half.
Yeah.
So had to dismantle it, put everything away. So the layout is actually at Shane's in Tennessee. And, I just had some changes occur over the past year and a half, so I took a break from all the hobby and established new metrics and getting back on course.
What are you doing to keep interest in the hobby?
I'm just now getting back into it, really. Doing this show was just part of it. I was ready to get back into my hobby and start associating with people because I really had some adjustments to make.
Okay.
So I wanted to focus on myself. Yeah. So I was just focusing on myself, focusing on my work and my health, and I put everything aside.
You just put everything aside, eh?
Yep.
No weathering, no small kits, no nothing, eh?
No. I've been thinking about, taking on a couple challenges, projects.
Yeah.
I've got everything reestablished as far as my tools and everything.
Okay.
So I think in the spring I'm really going to get back into it.
And you have plan. Okay, so let's take it from a different angle. You had a layout. You enjoyed the layout.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the chance to build another layout, do you have thoughts and ideas about what will be different? What would be different?
I think
if you could even build the same layout over again, what would?
Well, one, I would want a bigger room, wider aisles, and no duck under.
Okay.
So
even if you didn't have necessarily much bigger room, you definitely want no duck under, hopefully wider aisles.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Probably your number 1 and 2.
Yeah, and I'd learned from my mistakes as far as, construction and design from the first one. I wouldn't call them mistakes.
No.
It's just I'd do this a little different.
Yeah.
So that's always a learning process. So I can incorporate what I should have done into the next one.
Yeah. Any sketches on napkins or anything like that?
No. I'm going to be buying a new home soon, so it just depends on the space that I have. So I've got some design ideas, what I'd like.
But we'll stay around the Charlotte area?
Yeah, I'm going to stay up north part of Charlotte, close to Seth Gardner, the dock.
Did you get around to meet up with Seth much? Or?
Yeah, we do. We meet. I have a local brewery, and we meet there and have beers, and I'll stop by and see him from time to time. And, he was texting me earlier this morning, so giving me some jazz about stuff. So I told him you were here.
Seth, you should be here. So you're going to keep us up to date then with what goes on with the new layout?
Yeah, it'll probably be at least a year before I start.
Do they have basements in Charlotte?
No, they do not because of the clay soil. Unless you get a split level house built on a grade, a slope.
So Seth, he doesn't have a basement, does he?
Well, he has a lower level. It's not considered a basement.
Level, it's a split
you can walk out the back.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you need to find.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah. You've been to Seth's before.
I've been to Seth's.
Yeah, that's a nice little setup he's got down there.
That's a beautiful layout. He's excellent modeler.
Absolutely. He brews beer quite nicely as well. And he'll feed you.
So you modeled Norfolk Southern before?
Yeah, Norfolk Southern and Norfolk and Western. So I always did the two eras.
Is that going to change?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Because I got too much stuff.
Yeah. All packed away properly.
Absolutely.
All right. So one other question. It's not a problem. Well, it's a bit of a problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because I screwed up that convention, it kind of set back my plans a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But you're friends with Todd Gordon.
Yeah, and he's retired.
Yeah. Just now, after this season.
Yeah.
This last season.
Uh-huh.
Because I had really counted on maybe you getting me a spot.
On Penske Racing?
Yeah, or at least a tryout, a couple of laps.
Send Roger Penske an email.
Well, yeah, why couldn't we just deal with Todd Gordon?
He's retired. I think he's hiding.
Okay, how many times did you go to Todd and did you say, listen, I got this guy?
That's when I get a funny look from him.
But did you at least get to that part?
I got to that part. Then it was all over from there.
So he retired, did he?
Yeah, he retired.
Okay, because he was with Ryan Blaney last year.
That's correct.
And how come he retired?
I haven't really had that conversation with him, Bailey. I think he wanted to focus more on his family because he was always gone, and his oldest, he has 2 daughters,
right?
Like I do, and he wanted to be able to spend more time with them and the family.
Right.
And
I think that just kind of wears everybody out.
Yeah, and
eventually.
he's been pretty successful over his career, so I'm sure I would guess that he would stay on as some kind of consultant to Penske Racing.
There you go.
So,
can we not go down that path? If he stays on as a consultant at Penske Racing, would it kill you? I mean, seriously, would it kill you?
If I see him, he's a hard man to get a hold of. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to check. So I guess what we'll do is we'll check in with you as we go along to see
Absolutely.
how the new layout comes.
Yeah, it'll be a while, but I got some other things.
What would be, if you could pick a size, what would be your ideal layout size?
Not much bigger than what I had, which was about 12 by 18.
Okay.
Because I realized it's a lot of work.
Right.
And I'm pretty particular about how I construct things. I engineer the hell out of it.
So wide aisles are important. So
yeah,
12
we're not
by
getting
20,
any smaller.
22 would be okay?
Yeah, I would go a little more in the width.
Okay.
Probably 16 to 18. 18 by 18 probably be good.
All right.
It just depends on what I want, what I can
20
get.
room isn't overly. If you like, that's what my original one was, 20 by 20.
And you don't have to fill all of it, though.
No, you don't have to build it all. I think that's where people get confused, you know, or lost, because they think they got to fill the room, and you don't have to fill the room.
You got to have some comfort to move around, to sit down, and be able to move
even
around.
Even if you had a 20 by 20 room and you basically only went around the walls, but you finished that, I think you'd be pretty darn happy when you were done.
I think so, too.
Right. Okay, so we'll check in again later.
We'll see. When I get to that point, it'll be a while, but...
You got my cell number, so if you do get
yes,
a hold
sir,
of
I do.
Todd...
Oh, I'll let you know. I'm sure they'll modify the car to get you in just in time for Daytona.
Yeah. Thanks, Todd.
All right, buddy. Good to see you, brother.
Okay, and I'm here with Jeff Springer from Custom Model Railroads. Jeff, where are you based out of?
We are based in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, Charm City.
Charm City.
Okay.
Yep.
So can you tell me a little bit about Custom Model Railroads and what you and your company does?
Sure. So Custom Model Railroads, I started about 30 years ago, and we build custom layouts, and that was our original intention, was that I was going to build custom model railroads for people.
Okay, from the ground up.
From the ground up, which we still do, and that's still actually the bulk of our business. But along the way, people started asking for custom structures, and we got into laser cutting, and we made our first custom laser cut building. And I looked at it, and I said, wow, I think we could sell these. So we started coming out with kits, and I thought this will be a nice little side gig. If it makes a couple bucks, that'll be cool. And it really blew up and grew into what's now really a full-time business for a couple of my employees. And so everything is made in Baltimore.
Okay.
We manufacture all of our own product in our plant there, which gives us total control over it. It's all laser cut out of acrylic, which is a hard plastic.
Oh,
which gives
acrylic.
us the
Okay, so not wood or...
Correct.
Okay.
Nope, it's all acrylic, which the advantage of acrylic is when you build these tall skyscrapers is that the parts stay really square and straight. When you were a kid and you bought that ship model and you had to glue the two hull pieces together and they never fit because the plastic deformed in the box.
Right.
The acrylic, when you put the walls together, it matches all the way up, and it's rigid and it's hard and all that. Some people are a little afraid of how it might assemble. It glues together the same way as a styrene kit. You just can be a little more liberal with the glue. You're still using glue to fuse the parts together, but because the acrylic is a denser plastic, it just takes more of it to fuse it together. And then we prime them with Krylon spray paint right out of a rattle can, and then top coat them with hobby acrylics.
I notice you do have some very, very tall buildings. What's the tallest one that you offer?
So the tallest building we have is the Park Hotel. It's about 3 feet tall. And all of our
that's
kits...
HO scale?
That's HO scale. And all of our kits are sold as a basic kit, and then they have an add-on unit. So usually the sort of shaft of the tower can be bought separately so you can stack them up and make them as tall as you want.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, so I see that. So it looks like there's some that are sections like stacked on top of each other.
Correct. So basically the construction method for all of the buildings is you're building boxes and you're stacking them on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So there's usually a base unit, a mid-tower unit, and then the top of the tower. And so that you just stack them up on top of each other.
And so you offer kits in HO and N, it looks like?
That's correct. HO and N scale only.
Okay.
Yep.
And I do see you have a mix here. You have a lot of the urban skyscraper buildings, but you also have some smaller things like row houses and townhouses. Can you tell me about those?
Sure. So everything is the result of some project that somebody needed something done that wasn't available as a kit. Because if it's already available as a kit, we're just going to buy the kit. There were some row houses available on the market, but we felt we needed more. We needed some more of these like 2-story trackside, low-income neighborhoods, working-class neighborhoods.
Right.
So we developed those, which of course is something very familiar to us in Baltimore. You don't have to go very far to get a row house. So our first row houses were literally right out of our shop window. Right. Across the street.
So it made the research a little easier.
It made the research really easy, and it was certainly something that I'm familiar with. And people walk up and look at them, and they know it's a Baltimore row house. Very similar to a Philly row house or a Brooklyn row house, but definitely our neighborhood. We've dabbled a little bit with some trackside buildings, warehouses, things like that, but there's a lot of those on the market already. One of my favorite kits is our power plant kit, which is based on a power plant in Philadelphia. And it's just a big, hulking beast of a building, which I just really, really enjoy.
Yes, I've actually seen that on a fellow modeler's layout, and he has it all painted up and weathered and everything.
Yeah.
And it really is an impressive structure.
The real building, the first time I saw it, it's all covered in rust, and half the windows are broken. And I went up there, and the sun was setting, and the orange light on that building, it was just so beautiful. And I'm sitting there taking it in. My wife thinks I'm nuts, and I said I have to build this as a model. Yeah.
Okay. So are these buildings exact representations of a prototype, or are they a combination of what you see in the everyday world and your imagination? Or
so all of our buildings are based on a real building, but they are impressions of that building. Most of these buildings are huge in real life, and the Park Hotel in HO scale would be 4 feet square.
Wow.
If we built it the way it really is in New York. And it would have another 15 stories on it, and it would be too big. So basically, there's a whole combination of things. Is you want to build a model that has a small enough footprint that people can put it on their layout, and we also want to put all the parts in the same box because we want to have as few boxes as possible.
Right.
So you get into sort of management of the product of how are you going to make it, sell it, and put it all in a box. So they're all impressions of real buildings and not exact representations of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I believe you've done work for Rod Stewart at one point or another?
We've done quite a bit of work for Mr. Stewart. And most of the tall buildings started out as commissions for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think you did the big bridge on his layout that was
featured. We did the Queensboro Bridge for him. That was an amazing project. Yeah, that took us months to build.
Wow.
And he just recently moved his layout from LA back to England.
I heard that.
And packed it all up in like 7 or 10 containers and shipped it over and put it all back together.
Did you hear if everything made the trip okay? Or
my understanding is I was just talking to somebody yesterday is that it's all actually put back together and up and running.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, if somebody's interested in learning more about custom model railroads or maybe looking at or purchasing one of your kits, where can they find more information?
So the best place, obviously, would be our website at www.cmrtrain.com.
cmrtrain.com.
Or you can go to Custom Model Railroads with an S on the end of it, .com as well.
Now, do you still do custom layouts?
We still do custom layouts. We're building an enormous project right now. It's going to go in a 50 by 100 foot room for a customer that is based on the Overland route.
Okay.
And we're modeling, the section of it we're modeling is Ogden to Green River.
Wow.
So a lot of high desert running, which I've never done before. Very different from our usual urban stuff.
Okay.
And it's a great project. We also have a Facebook page, just Custom Model Railroads on Facebook.
Okay, so you're on Facebook
and
also.
you can see that project. That's where we post most of our sort of current stuff because it's so easy to post there.
Sure.
And you don't even have to be on Facebook to see it. You can just Google Custom Model Railroad's Facebook, and it'll take you to the Facebook page.
Okay.
And you can see pictures of that project there. It's a really fascinating project. It's so different from where we live here on the East Coast.
Okay.
We've done a number of field trips out there. It's a beautiful part of the country.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So another question: when you're doing a layout for a client, is the approach flexible? Like if they just want somebody to build their bench work and their track, and they want to do the scenery, will you kind of do what you'll go anywhere on the continuum, or
the quick answer to that is yes.
Okay.
Typically, it's one of two things that they get. They either get bench work, track, and wiring, so they sort of get the plywood Pacific, right? And it's all up and it's operating and it's running, and then they add the scenery and the structures. And then the other option is we basically do the whole kit and caboodle, and they get everything except the trains. We do things in between, depending on what the customer. Sometimes we built literally just bench work.
Okay.
And we've built bench work and scenery, and made spots for every building that the customer was going to put on it, and they just did the buildings. So we do all gambits, but lately most of what we do is the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And about every 3 years maybe we build some sort of commercial project, like a museum layout.
Okay.
We actually have 2 layouts in the B&O Railroad Museum in Baltimore. They just installed a new one about a month ago that was donated by one of our clients.
Oh, okay.
And it's a fabulous way to go see one of our layouts because it's completely open to the public.
Get the whole experience.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And how long does that generally take? If somebody, let's say somebody orders a layout, the whole kit and caboodle, how long would that process take?
So let's say over the last 30 years that I've been doing this, the average sort of layout is sort of your bedroom-sized layout.
Okay.
It's maybe 15 by 15 or 15 by 20. That project, from the time they call us up and say, yeah, I want you to do it, to the time we walk in the door with the finished project is usually about a year. It usually takes us maybe 3 months to plan it and then maybe 6 to 9 months to build it. Currently now we have sort of a backlog of projects.
Okay.
So it's running now into several years that we're backed up before the customers get their
wow.
project. I mean, this Overland Route project that we're building is a 3-year project.
3 years.
We've been working on it 2 years, and we got another year to go.
Okay.
So.
And that's in between producing the kits, packing the orders for the kits, and all of the other
Exactly. And then we also do a fair amount of just custom structures. We build models of, somebody wants a specific station on their train layout or a bridge or something, and we build them just that, and we ship it to them.
Oh, okay. So you'll do structure work on commission as well.
We do. We also build models of non-model railroad related stuff for people. We built in the news right now, of course, is the James Webb Space Telescope, and we built an amazing model of that for the Space Science Institute, which is sitting in their lobby. We built it about 10 years ago. Everybody's calling up thinking that we can sell it to them as a kit for $22.95. It was like a $40,000 or $50,000 model,
right?
With real Kapton on it from NASA, and it's really cool.
Wow!
And we build industry models, which unfortunately most of those we can't show people, but they're study models or lobby models for the industry as to what they're going to do. So a lot of modeling going on. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. And what's that website again?
It's www.cmrtrain.com.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Okay, so now I'm here with the one and only Tom Schmieder. And the only way I know of Tom Schmieder, is that how you say it?
You've said it correctly.
It is Tom?
It is Tom.
Okay, perfect.
A lot of people mispronounce that.
Do they?
Yes. Especially from Western Pennsylvania. They say Tom.
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 Tom. Okay, the only way I know of you is I've heard your name repeated numerous times by our mutual friend Dave Abeleys. And how do you know Dave Abeleys?
I was introduced to Dave Abeleys through Jerry Dietzig.
Okay.
And Jerry had, I'm not sure, connected with Dave and found out about this guy with his layout over near us. I live in Long Valley, New Jersey, where Dave grew up.
Right.
And I grew up in Long Valley also, about a mile and a half from where Dave grew up, but about 8 years ahead of him. And for some reason, we never crossed paths.
Right.
But yet, this guy, Dave, knows everybody that I know, that I grew up with. I met Dave, became friends with him, become friends on Facebook with him, and then I realized that all of my friends that I have on Facebook, he's making comments on all their posts because he knows everybody that I know. And I'm like, how did we never, ever cross paths and realize, everybody knows I'm a train geek. Everybody knows Dave's a train geek.
Right.
And we have all these mutual friends that never pointed out, hey, there's this other train idiot out here.
Yeah.
And Jerry did that for us.
And how far is Long Valley from Lebanon?
About 25 minutes drive.
So really you guys have lived like 30 minutes apart.
Yes.
Most of your lives.
Correct.
Or in the same town.
Correct.
And you never found each other until about 8 years ago.
Correct. But we're making up for it now.
And you said you're like 8 years older than Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, because he had mentioned you hadn't aged that well.
He's right. He's very perceptive.
So do you operate on his layout?
Yes.
Yeah, you're one of his regular operators, are you not?
Yes, pretty regular.
Okay.
I sort of have morphed into one of the facilitators there. He has utility guys that aid with staging trains and moving consists between runs, that type of stuff. I usually end up doing that, and then I'll take the occasional train over the road too.
Okay, Dave won't hear this until we play it on the podcast, and this is a grand opportunity because he insists that I have to come by and operate his layout.
Okay.
But I'm really kind of torn 50-50 because I'm thinking you guys seem like you're really much more into it or prototypical than I could handle.
It's a lot of fun.
Right.
And it pursues prototype fidelity to an nth degree.
Right.
Absolutely. But it's a lot of fun in the process. He has a couple of very young operators that have come to the layout.
I've seen that, yeah.
And they're enthusiastic about it, and it's a learning process for everybody. I didn't know as much about how this stuff worked until I started running at Dave's.
Right.
And I'm really a timetable train order guy. I love timetable train order stuff.
Right.
And to me, the colored lights is boring.
Right.
Or it was. And it's gotten more interesting probably because of the roles that I've, morphed into, where it's not just running on the road and looking at lights. And I think the thing that really piqued my interest about Dave's layout is I had family out in western Pennsylvania and used to rail fan along the lakeshore east of Erie, Pennsylvania.
Okay, sure.
Well, it's a Chicago line.
Yeah.
And I go to Dave's basement and I look around and I'm going, wow, it's the Chicago line. He really captured that rail fanning experience in his basement.
Right. Okay.
And that's what really piqued my interest. And then, like I said, the running trains, for the operator of the train, it's pretty simple. You follow the signals, and when it's clear, you go, and when you have to stop, you stop. But the layout's really well done. He's really a talented modeler. He's
how does it run mechanically?
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's very fastidious about the mechanics of it. And it really, he's at maximum performance.
Okay.
Like there are some trains that run on the layout, and they're like, yeah, we really put one too many cars on that layout because it started to string line at the top of the hill.
Okay.
And all the cars are weighted right, and it's really well done mechanically, but there's just certain physical limitations you can have with how much weight you can pull. And the engines are heavy. You'll put 4 engines on a train, but there's just so much tension on the train because of the weight of the train on the hill. It'll string line.
Sure.
And so he has to make some concessions and not run stuff quite as big as he wants. He's at the physical limits of what he can do.
And generally, it's not a huge layout, really, by huge layout standards.
By comparison to a lot of other layouts, no, it's not very big. And
but he's done a lot with the space.
But he's really maximized. Well, I thought he had maximized his space, and then he found a way to put another staging yard, this deep staging yard in, which I don't know if he's talked to you about how he did that, but I could not believe it fit.
Yeah.
Like he pre-built the whole thing as like a module. It was like an 18-foot long module with a hook at the end of it. And he's like, Ralph and I came over to help him put it in, and he shows us one on the floor, and we're looking at his benchwork, and he's got to thread it through the existing benchwork to put it where it's going to go, and it fit perfectly. Like there was no way to build this thing and like test fit it as it went,
right?
And it was engineered perfectly. Like we were squeaking the lumber in as it passed the girders, and he's a really sharp guy.
Yeah,
and it shows on many levels of his modeling. From the mechanical side of it to the scenery to the concept of the layout with the run-through staging. It's really highly evolved from a really good foundational start.
Sure. Well, what's the deal with Dave? I mean, I don't think I've ever met anybody like Dave.
He's unique.
He is unique.
He's a special kind of guy.
Yeah, I'd say special. He says odd duck. I say special.
They're synonyms.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you model?
So I've become interested in the Lackawanna Railroad.
Okay.
And I'm modeling a part of the Lackawanna in western New Jersey from a place called Lake Apatcong and Slateford, Pennsylvania. And there was the original line of the Lackawanna that went via the 1800s when it was constructed through Hackettstown in Washington. We made a right turn in Washington, went up through Oxford, out through Delaware, New Jersey, and up through the Delaware Water Gap and towards Scranton and Buffalo.
Right.
And in 1910, they realized that they had so much traffic volume, this was really a bottleneck, and they built what they call the New Jersey, they just called it the Cutoff at the time. It's the New Jersey Cutoff now, because there's also a Pennsylvania Cutoff. And they had this modern construction in 1910 where they basically went from Lake Apatcong straight, hooked to left, and shot straight across New Jersey to Slateford, and it met the old road again.
Okay.
And it was very modern construction. They blasted out mountains and filled in valleys. It's a 0.5% grade downhill from Lake Apatcong to the Delaware Water Gap.
All right.
And they actually had a cut of cars get away in one of the yards there, and it rolled all the way to Delaware Water Gap. It was a string of cement cars in a caboose. And the cement cars didn't stay on the track. The caboose did, and they're still at the bottom of the Delaware River.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were doing like 70 miles an hour, and they didn't make the curve at Point of Gap. But
so what era are you? Is it 1910 you're modeling, or what?
Nope, I'm stretching it. I like steam. I like diesel too. And so I'm modeling from 1953 was when they last ran their steam through 1958, because where I'm modeling the Cutoff, it used to be double track until 1958.
Okay.
And then they single tracked it and put CTC in. And when I was conceptualizing the layout, I thought, just having current of traffic trains just run and don't hit the train in front of you with, rear protection signals doesn't make people have to think that much.
Right.
So I decided to model where it's CTC on the Cutoff. The dispatcher is going to have to think about how to run the trains. But I just thought it would fit better on the layout and have a more challenging operation. The yard just can't go, okay, go, disappear, and run into staging. It has to be thought out more in terms of the movement of the trains.
Right, and so your timetable and train order.
So part of the layout is CTC on the Cutoff.
Okay.
The old road, and I'm also modeling the Sussex branch, which split off at Sussex Branch Junction between Landing and or Lake Apatcong and Netcong. The Sussex branch split off and went all the way up into northern New Jersey in Sussex County, and it ended in a town called Branchville. So I'm modeling those two lines, the Cutoff, the old road, and the Sussex branch. And the Cutoff had become CTC in 58. The old road was still timetable train order, and the Sussex branch was timetable train order. So the Cutoff will have CTC with, it's 2 light, 2 head signals, which is how the Lackawanna set it up. The old road will have either upper quadrant semaphores or the 2 light signals, and the Sussex branch had lower quadrant semaphores.
Wow.
So there's some variety in the signaling systems and the types of operation that are on the layout.
So where are we in stage of construction?
So like Dave from his design, I've also decided to do a run-through lower-level staging.
Okay.
Which I thought is extremely versatile and really effective at minimizing how much time you spend staging your layouts between sessions. You can recycle trains actively during the session, or if it's big enough, you can just, do what you need to do between sessions and just run it like a regular session without active staging. And it's 28 tracks wide by about 40 feet long, with an engine terminal at one end and a suburban service passenger train yard at the other end.
Okay. So the layout is 40 feet long.
So it's 23 by 50.
23 by 50?
Yep. Full basement, ranch house.
Okay.
And so the staging level is the bottom level, except for the Sussex branch, which actually drops down below it.
Right.
So the staging yard is built. I've gotten around the room with the bench work for a lot of the layout. The road bed is in for the Cutoff. The old road bed is about halfway around. The Sussex branch is about halfway around. What I really am at is holding me up is I need to finish the staging yard completely. The track is in. Most of it's got feeders run to it. The tortoises are all in. I have about 70 staging tortoises.
Wow.
And I have to wire all that and put my control panels in and finish beta testing my staging to make sure it's completely perfect before I put Port Morris is going to completely cover the staging yard.
Okay.
At about 11 inches above it.
All right.
So it's tight.
That staging
it's got to be bulletproof.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with the construction right now.
And you got anybody helping you, or?
I have a few guys that come over and help.
Okay.
And I had more than that, and COVID came, and it slowed things down a lot, but it's picking up again.
All right. What's the deal with Rich Wisniewski?
Rich Wisniewski?
Wisniewski? I call him Wisniewski.
Yeah, it's Wisniewski.
It's Wisniewski?
At least you pronounced my name, Tom, right.
Is it Rich?
It is Rich.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
He's a sharp guy.
He is a very sharp guy. Nice guy,
As a matter of fact, he's a very interesting guy.
He is an interesting guy. He's been on the podcast several times. I'm really not sure I'm going to fit in with you guys. I'm really struggling with that.
It's a very welcoming.
It is.
If you know Dave,
I have no doubt.
If you know Dave,
I know Dave a little bit.
You know he's the most welcoming person you'll probably ever meet.
Right.
Everybody could be his friend.
Right.
And if you're interested in coming to the layout and seeing what it's like, in terms of prototype operations, can you drive a car?
Yes. Yeah, kind of.
Do you run red lights when you drive your car?
Occasionally.
On the railroad, that would get you, out of service.
Yeah,
on
right.
Dave's railroad, they might make fun of you.
Okay.
It's super welcoming. It's really easy to run. The prototype fidelity, when I talk about that, he goes as far as doing printouts of these train, instruction sheets.
Paperwork.
And he simulates the dot matrix printer that Conrail would have used back in the 90s to print these forms.
Yeah.
And they sort of replicate the format of the Conrail forms. So there's that type of prototype fidelity.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to print that form. You don't have to do it. All you have to do is you look at, I'm picking up my train in this end of the staging yard. I'm going to run through to the other staging yard. And you just follow the signals, and it's super easy to run. It's not complicated. It's so much more easier for the crews than timetable train order is.
Yeah.
All the burden is on the dispatcher to flick the switches on the CTC machine to line your route. The operator, it's super easy.
Okay.
And even if your train works the yard, the yard's probably going to give you instructions on if you're dropping into the yard or whether they come out and pick something up. It's usually some type of a coordinated effort like that.
All right.
It's so user-friendly for the train crews.
Okay.
There is nothing to be concerned about at all.
I'm concerned.
This kid over here is like 8 years old.
Yeah.
He'd successfully run a train at Dave's on his first try.
Did he?
He could.
Oh, he could?
He could.
All right.
Anybody can. It's very user-friendly.
Well, then I'm really going to look like a stooge.
There's people that are more than happy to help. And as a matter of fact, you won't run by yourself the first time.
No.
He always sends a coach with somebody. If you're really having challenges figuring it out, and it's the geography of it was the hardest part for me to figure out where you are. Because it loops around, there's a duck under, it loops around, and then you come in the other staging yard, and to wrap my head around where I was in east and west, it took me a few runs. But after my first run, they're like, oh, you got this, here you go. And they gave me my next train, and I said, okay. And it was fine.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty simple to run.
Well, Dave speaks very highly of you, so that's cool. So I'm glad I finally got to meet you.
He's a good guy, and I'm happy I met him, and we've quick made up for the missing years that we didn't get.
I think it sounds like you have. Where do you work? What do you do?
So I have had assorted jobs during my career. Presently, I do DCC installations.
Really?
I'm an authorized soundtracks retailer, and I do decoder installations for people.
That's it?
I retrofit the new sound systems into people's older models.
Really?
So.
And that's your full-time job?
It could be full-time, except I never end up spending 40 hours a week on it.
Okay.
So other things get in the way.
All right. So that's what you do, though. You just work for Soundtracks.
I'm self-employed. I have a business called Real Sound Solutions.
Right.
And I'm an authorized soundtracks retailer.
Now you're telling me. Real Sound Solutions. You
Real
got a
Sound
website?
Solutions. I have a Facebook page.
Facebook page?
That's it.
Everybody go to Real Sound Solutions.
Yeah, if you look up Real Sound Solutions on Facebook, you'll see it.
All right. And how's that business going?
It's as busy as I want it to be, or need it to be.
Okay.
I've got a bunch of work lined up, and I tell people, you're not going to get it back tomorrow. And fortunately, most of my customers have been very comfortable with, I'm not in a hurry. Do it when you get to it.
All right.
So
cool.
it's typically a 3-month turnaround.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, I guess I better talk to that Ralph Heiss guy because he's getting.
Is he still here?
Well, I say there he is wandering down there.
Oh, he's in the green room.
Yeah, he's in the green room. Exactly. Have you ever listened to the podcast?
I have listened to the podcast.
Oh, yeah?
I heard Dave and Rich talking about it to no end, and Rich is really encouraging about trying to inspire people to listen to it.
Yes.
And it's
not for everybody. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It's one of those things.
And you'll have to work on the next guy, because Ralph, typically, I don't even know if he has listened to it, but he's tried. I don't know if he's tried to avoid listening to it or just doesn't think he'll like it.
Okay.
But he has not listened to it.
All right, well, that's fine. And it's one of those things, if you want to listen. If you don't, you don't.
I've tried to talk to Ralph and say it's really interesting.
Yeah.
As a listener, because, there's a certain shtick that exists on the show.
Yeah, there is.
And
let's get him over here.
The part about it that's interesting to me is that you evoke good conversation out of the people.
Yeah.
So I meant
like
to pay
this.
that compliment forward. That it's, despite the shtick, you ask questions that elicit information out of people that wouldn't be brought out otherwise.
Exactly.
And you hear about people's backgrounds and how they got into the hobby and what their
'Cause
story
that's
is.
what
and
it is. It's the hobby is the community.
The core focus of the whole AML show is very interesting, and
Yes.
I've come to enjoy it. I don't say I listen to all the episodes,
No, but you
I
listen
do enjoy it.
occasionally.
Yes.
You're a regular, occasional listener.
Occasionally, I listen to it, and of course, Rich or Dave will go, "Hey, you really got to listen to this one. This guy, you got to hear this one." So it's so thank you for what you're doing. It's
All right.
good.
Well, thank you, Tom, for stopping by, and I'll have you on again. And we'll talk more about soundtracks and all that stuff.
Very good.
All right.
Take
Well,
care.
let's see if we can find Ralph now.
I could sing.
Yeah, can you sing?
I could sing. What would you like me to sing?
What's your favorite tune to sing?
Way down. No.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm talking to a guy named Ralph Heiss, and before the conversation even starts, I got a feeling this is going to be a bad deal.
It could be. It could be. But I mean, I can behave. I can behave.
Can you?
I can. It's whether I choose to behave.
When was the last time you behaved?
That's a good question. That is a very good question.
Exactly. Exactly.
The last interviewee would tell me not in a very long time, but that's okay.
So how do you know? So you're a friend of Dave Abley's.
I am a friend of Dave Abley's.
How do you know Uncle Dave?
I know Dave.
Wait a minute. Do you know that? Do you know that we on the old pod has anybody referred to him as Uncle Dave? That's the way I refer to him.
No. Well, the funny thing is that who you refer to as Uncle Dave, his kids refer to me as Uncle Ralph.
Oh, do they?
Yes. Yes, I'm Uncle Ralph.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So.
And how do you know Dave?
I know Dave, again, through the local New Jersey operating crew. Our friend Tony Custer, who you are very familiar with.
Right.
And Jerry Dietzick. And, again, Dave was the little brother that I never had that I wish I had had. Because Dave and I have grown to be very, very good friends. We bond obviously over trains.
Right.
But also music.
Wow.
And our love of craft beer.
Okay, craft beer.
Yes.
I heard. So craft beer, music. What kind of music do you like?
Well, I'm a child of the '80s, so pretty much any of the classic '80s hair bands or the 80s pop bands.
Okay.
Dave and I bond particularly over the music of Def Leppard.
Wow, Def Leppard.
Yes.
People tell me I had a great '80s. I wish I could remember it.
Yeah, well,
So how long you known Dave?
I would say at least 7 years. We were actually just having this discussion over New Year's, and it's been at least 7 years.
Okay.
His second oldest child, I believe I met Dave about the time that he was born.
Ted.
And Teddy is T-Bird is 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
You call him T-Bird?
Yes.
All right.
I probably have said too much at this point.
And how did you meet Dave?
There was a local operating session I believe it was at our friend Jerry Dietzig's house.
Okay, just Jerry Dietzig seems to be the glue that's holding all you guys together.
Yeah. Originally, when I got involved in the hobby, when I was about 17, 18, it was a gentleman named Harold Worthwine who had a very large Erie layout. And that's where I had met Tom and Jerry and a host of many other local modelers, actually even Tony.
You're right.
And it really just grew from there, And Dave, Dave being about 7 years younger than I am, we just didn't know each other because we were it was a different generation.
Yeah, Dave had spoken that you were in your early 50s.
Yes.
And he said you hadn't aged that well. Maybe I shouldn't have repeated.
Maybe you should have, but that's okay.
Yeah, I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't have repeated that.
Dave and I have we have an open relationship. We've shared a lot of so that's okay. I would expect nothing less from my brother Dave.
Okay, all right. I apologize if I spoke out of turn. So how close do you live to Dave?
About 40 minutes west. Like due west of my house in central New Jersey.
Okay, so Dave insists that he wants me to come by and take a turn and being part of an operating session, and I'm convinced I will not fit in with you guys because you guys all seem super hyper, super into prototypical operation, super everything has to be done right, and I'm thinking I'm just not going to fit in with these guys because.
No, you know what? We do take the operations very seriously, and it's kind of has to be that. Well, it doesn't have to be that way, but it is. I mean, with so many real railroaders, operating a model railroad, it's inevitable. Like that's the word I was looking for. Inevitable.
Right.
Rich Wisniewski and Jack Trapaccino, and Dave, and one other coworker of theirs, Scott Sorensen. They all work for the railroad, so it kind of just translates over. But it's enjoyable. It's very, even intense is the wrong word, but it is intense. But it's intense in a good way.
Okay. Intense. I'm not sure I'm into intense model railroading. I've been exposed to it before through Tony Custer and some other events and things like that, and I'm not sure I'm really into being an intense model railroader.
Well, but it's all about, in the end, it's all about fun, and we have fun, and nobody yells at anybody. Well, sometimes, only when it's deserved. But no, it's not about. I've heard stories of the late great, Jack Ozanich, and he didn't do it to be mean. It was just who Jack was.
Well, see, I got along great with Jack.
Oh, you did? Oh.
I got along great with Jack. Jack and I knew exactly where Jack was coming from.
Okay.
And I kind of enjoyed being chewed out by Jack.
I wish I had met the man.
Yeah.
I wish I had a chance to operate on that layout.
But he had this way of, he operated very prototypically. He took it very, it was intense.
Yes.
But it was intense in a way that if you made a mistake, half the fun was getting chewed out.
Was getting yelled at, yes.
Was getting chewed out by Jack.
Exactly.
And then he would explain to you what you did wrong.
Right.
And then away you'd go again. But it was just the fun was, I never made a mistake on purpose, but when I did, I loved it.
Yeah, no, we do bust a lot of balls during a session, but it's all in good fun. Nobody goes home feeling like they, can't come back or should just get out of model railroading completely.
Of course, my problem with Jack was he would start yelling at me and I'd start laughing.
Which would make, of course,
made him, and then he'd be like, I remember one time he was like this, nose to nose, and he's like, rah, 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 rah. And I couldn't stop smiling.
I have heard similar stories, yes.
So what do you model?
I model the Lehigh Valley. In 1950, in New York Harbor, which obviously is long before I was ever on this earth, but I just gravitated towards it. Living in New Jersey was something that interested me, and I've researched the living daylights out of it, and here I am 20 years later, and the layout's still not done.
Right. Well, they're never done. So. Do you have operating sessions?
The last one I had was 2013. I went through a lot of stuff at home with losing my parents, so I had to take care of them, and
sure.
And the layout became a dumping ground for everything that I had to get out of their house, and it just it progresses. It progresses in ebbs and flows. With playing music, I get involved in that a little bit, and the model railroading takes a back seat. So
you play guitar? What do you play?
I play bass guitar.
Okay, so now that might be what you two have in common, because the bass guitarist on stage is always the guy that looks like he's not 100% sure that he should be there.
Well, the only musician, and Uncle Dave's gonna love this one. The only musician in a band that gets less, attention and less.
Is the guy playing the bongos?
The guy playing the drum. Oh, yes,
the bongos.
Oh, don't ever! Oh, please don't call it the bongos, please.
Or whatever he calls them. I saw this picture of him, and he kept telling me he was in a band.
Yes.
And then he's standing in front of these Congo drums.
There you go.
And I'm like, so what else did you play? Oh, I played the Congo drums and the tambourine. I said, you weren't in a band. You were a groupie.
Oh, poor Dave. That's okay, Dave. I got your back on this. No, Dave is a great. He's a great harmony singer. He's played with my band a couple times. And
okay.
Great harmonies. Him and I harmonize well. He's got a really great sense of rhythm.
Okay.
So that's important when you're playing a percussion
instrument. That's true. So what's the name of your band?
My one band is named Silent Q, and we are a acoustic trio.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, right now we're a duo, but Dave makes it a trio when Dave can play with us.
Okay.
So
an acoustic trio, and he plays the bongos.
Yes, he plays his congas.
Congas or whatever.
Yes. Yes. He gets very mad at me when I call them bongos. Actually, my girlfriend calls them bongos. Yes.
Yeah. So. And the tambourine occasionally.
And the tambourine.
Yeah.
Maybe the triangle. Yeah. Just like Tracy Partridge.
Yeah. There you go, Tracy Partridge. That's exactly
only
it.
People of our age group would get that reference. Yes.
That's a perfect example. That would be perfect how to describe Dave in the band.
Now he's really going to love it. told him I had his back, and now I did that to
Crazy
him.
partridge. All right, so are you going to get your layout going again?
I am. I just need to get the focus on it, and I bought a couple things this weekend that can help that focus.
You're not one of those timetable and train order guys, are you?
No, my entire layout is, I mean, I do enjoy it, and I understand it, because I do operate at Tony's and
Right.
a couple of the people's layouts, but mine's all under yard limits, so it's just, you don't see anything? Go.
Okay, cool.
It's a giant yard, is what a giant switching layout.
So when's the next time you're operating at Dave's?
Hopefully sometime in February.
All right. So now I hear that you absolutely refuse to listen to the podcast.
Absolutely. No, I wouldn't say absolutely. I have tried. It's just not my cup of tea.
Oh, have you tried it?
I have.
Okay. All right.
have.
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's just like not everybody can actually play an instrument.
That's-
They just they bang on the congos and they're the triangle.
No, it is. We like to joke that it's an absolute thing. No, it's not. I have listened, especially after you did your interviews with Tony.
Oh, yeah?
And I've known Tony for 20 plus years, but they're like, yeah, if you really listen to the interview, you're going to learn things
lot of
about
stuff.
Tony that you may not know. And,
Exactly.
And
that's all because of he had a really good interviewer. It's key interviewing.
Yeah.
Will you listen to this? Will you listen to yourself?
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, like
yeah,
I said,
sure.
I've recorded, albums, so I listen to myself all the time.
Oh, yeah, sure. So you're going to listen to this.
Sure.
So now it's going to become the Ralph Heiss show.
No,
That's the only way I'm
no.
Now it's going to be the only way I can get John there.
But no. I
Okay. Say goodbye, Ralph.
Goodbye, Ralph.
All right. So, okay, Dave. So that was.
I told you that was going to be great. Wow, you'd only given me a little snippet. I only heard a couple little pieces of this, right? And here we are.
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
Ralph is.
Ralph. He is the biggest hearted guy. He's a wonderful, wonderful friend of mine. And I really am grateful for the camaraderie and the friendship that being able to bond on Def Leppard. Ralph, dude.
Oh, yeah, that was something. The Def Leppard. Where did you guys come up with that? Came out of left field. I'm sitting there going, Def Leppard.
Def Leppard they're a much better group of musicians from the middle 80s than they get credit for, in my opinion. Yeah, they had commercial success. They have some, worldwide smash hits. And that's all great. That's all well and good. But when you listen to those Def Leppard tunes or a whole bunch of the lesser known hits, for lack of a better term, there's just incredible harmonic work going on there. There's incredible vocal harmonies in the background. And yeah, it's in that 80s production. You have the larger sound, a lot of electric production and what have you. But this is not your average 80s band or some hair band. This band is really different. They stand alone. And it was, of all people, Jack Trabacchino in 1987 that said, you need to hear this song. And he played Def Leppard's Animal for me. It's the third song on the first side of Hysteria, their biggest album. And, even a harmony-based guy like myself, growing up listening to vocal harmony, it blew my mind. So to find Ralph Heiss, who loves Def Leppard, in the model railroading community was like, okay, this is we have a lot to talk about. This is going to be fun. And then to hear Tom Schmieder and his kind words about the OC and about how much it means for him to be included. Tom, man, I'm really touched by what you said. I think I'm the lucky one. I'm the one that has both of you guys here. So thank you so much. And man, what a hoot.
So I imagine you
triangle for God's sake, Lionel. Just a little respect. At least I play the bongo or the congas. Shut up.
Well, I always figured the guy that played the congas really had no rhythm, musical talent, and they just say, "Here, play the bong. Here, play the."
That's about it. It's hard to go on a solo tour on the tambourine,
So I imagine now that you and Ralph were sitting trackside, with the minivan full of, and you looked in and you couldn't see anything for all the smoke, kind of a Cheech and Chong thing.
No, but you couldn't hear the trains because of the screeching of all three of my kids in the back,
right?
Who, have also learned to love Def Leppard. So
really,
oh yeah, they'll all sing Animal to you next time you come.
And which one is slamming his head into the locker?
It's probably Susie.
Oh yeah. All right,
but it's a hoot. So, Uncle Ralph and I will take the minivan out with all three kids to go watch trains periodically. And when we do, we let the kids choose songs. And as often as not, they're choosing great music from the 70s and the 80s.
So what about your wife, Kristen? Is she a Def Leppard fan?
She likes Def Leppard a lot more than she did when I met her. She hadn't heard much of it, really, because she's a kid of the 90s. She's on the other side of the millennial gap, where I'm a Gen Xer, born in 77. She was born in 1982.
Right.
And it's amazing how much the music scene changed between, the early 80s when I was coming of age, where there was still a lot of 70s, there was some 60s, and quite a bit of the early 80s, obviously. And then when she was coming of age, 89, 90, 91, the whole different genre.
What's wrong with Buck Owens and the Buckaroos? Why don't you just listen to some country and western?
I love country and western.
Really?
I enjoy Dolly Parton. Enjoyed Johnny Cash for sure. John Denver, which is, of course, just country music album of the year award, much to the chagrin of much of Nashville. But I think John Denver is fantastic.
Oh yeah, Country Roads Take Me Home.
Beautiful tune, and it's so much. Again, just a brilliant voice, and a real master of the guitar. His finger picking, it's hard to beat it.
I was playing that. I was playing that while I was driving into Thurman, West Virginia the other day.
Entirely appropriate, my friend. Well done.
Have you ever been there?
Yes, I have.
That's quite the place, eh?
Yep, it's a haunting spot. It's actually there's a couple of pictures in my book from Thurman that I took when I was there with my buddy John Case.
Okay. Haunting is a good word.
It's a haunting spot. And I was there in the pouring rain in the spring. It was the perfect weather to go to Thurmond. And when I was there was the old C&O signals were still standing. So it was the old, Union switch and signal US&S color light signals with the old C&O cantilevers. And we managed to see a couple trains there, which was cool.
Really?
Yep. Some cold trains came and went, and it was a haunting place, though, all the way down the bottom of this holler. And the people don't appreciate the size of the New River. The New River, the gorge is incredible, but the river itself it's not a small body of water.
It's incredible to think that people lived back there.
Oh,
like a whole town was back there. And I went one time years ago, probably in the 80s, with a friend of mine, and we drove across the tracks and started going up the hill into
up that wild back road there behind the buildings.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like there's hardly any room. We were in my pickup truck, and there's but there's people that live there.
Yeah, and we were told not to go up there unless we lived up there.
I'm sure I was told that too.
Not surprising. Although I'm jealous because in the 80s that was a different railroad too. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And whenever you think about that stuff, of the history of these little towns in West Virginia, where they had that's the little block there of buildings they had, and it's just amazing that part of that's, I think, one of the romantic parts of model railroading is trying to recreate a particular time and era, whether you're modeling the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 50s. I think that's part of and as I was driving in and driving out, I was actually thinking about you and some of our conversations, and I was also thinking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, so don't get too excited. But I was thinking about, I think that's a big part of the hobby, is creating, it's more of a history thing as much as anything. Does that make any sense?
I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's history, but it's the history of camaraderie as well. So it's not just, a black and white photo that we're recreating. There's a human element to model railroading, And especially when you go to the operational side of things. And this is something that I've been, trading notes with with a couple people. When you're modeling railroading with an ing, modeling railroading, not just model railroad, not model railroader, or you're modeling railroading, which is a lifestyle. It's for very few people is it just a job. It can't be. It's too intense. It's too involved. It's too around the clock. It's operational based, so there is no break. You have to keep going. When you're modeling railroading, history is part of the fabric of what you're building, and the camaraderie is part of the goal of where you're going based on that history. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Sort of a long string of thought, but this is something where you look at like Ralph and Tom as part of what we just heard, and these guys get it. They understand that when you take a ScaleTrains GP30 and you put it on a layout, whether it's the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, because these GP30s lasted for that much time, you're creating that aura. You're building an energy about a certain time period that uses the trains as a medium to get there. And I mean, what a hobby. What a hobby that lets you know. Yeah, you can model your GP30. And now ScaleTrains have come out with this incredible GP30. I'm getting one from the Rio Grande for what it's worth from this first order. You can weather it up for your era. You can detail it so that it fits the era that you want. They're doing some great detailing themselves, but you can always change things and play around with it, as you see fit. Add somebody to the cab, figurines, what have you. That GP30 is a beautiful model, but now it becomes part of the fabric of the layout and part of the story you're trying to tell, part of the camaraderie that railroading requires to work. And this is a hobby? What are you kidding? Where do I sign up? This
exactly.
Is
well,
this is great.
There's an interview coming up somewhere along the way with David Hyde. He's lives out there in Dallas. He's the fellow that's with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. And I mean, he talks about how friendly people are. And I was thinking, man, I got to get the two of you guys together to talk about, because I really think that's the next great frontier in model railroading, is to expose the camaraderie of what the hobby really provides is a camaraderie for people to come together and enjoy each other.
Yeah, it's a common language, and in a world where there's lots of differences, and we don't have to look too hard to find places to be frustrated these days. That's you want that, just turn on the news, go to Twitter or Facebook or NBC or Fox, or pick your online information source. And chances are you'll be pretty frustrated after a few minutes. That's just how it goes. But it really doesn't even matter your persuasion anymore. I mean, all this stuff is there to get you to click. And then there's model railroading. Then there's some place you can go where there's a common language. There's a real industry that does real things for real people. It's got a tangible history that's well recorded. And it's now, with the AML or with a Patreon channel on the AML or the Onondaga Cutoff or Facebook Live, or again, you pick your model railroading online source, and suddenly you're surrounded by people that speak the same language as you. And that's an exciting, positive thing to put into your life.
Yeah, I think that's what we got to work on, exposing even more and more. But I think we do that through the podcast. Time for another doing an Uncle Dave's fireside chats.
Good enough.
Okay, so we have an email address. It's modellerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with one L like Abelese, not two L's like Lionel. It's the best I can come up with right now.
Yeah, that's a quick one.
It's a quick one.
One L like Staley. Like, remember the tank cars?
Okay.
80s tank cars, Staley?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, two L's like what? Two L's is a little bit harder.
It is a little bit harder.
Like Lackawanna, Thomas Schmieder's layout, Lackawanna, that's just one.
Yeah.
Right? Erie Lackawanna is still just one L.
I got a feeling that when we interview Tom Schmieder, I'm going to be exhausted.
You might be.
Yeah. We're going to interview Tom because we got to get him on there. So, And anyway, so we got the email address. You're listening to this on the free channel. If you didn't catch the email address, you just scroll down and you'll find on our website, amodelerslife.com, you'll find a picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state. And if you just click on the picture, boom, the email comes up. All you got to do is fill in the subject line and the text. And we love getting email. It's our favorite thing. You should listen to the email shows. They're great because half of them are about you now anyways.
They're fun. Oh, dude, 2 L's like Conrail quality.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, see, if I was cool, I would have thought of that right off the bat.
Oh, yeah. And did we ever mention that the Onondaga Cutoff has a licensing agreement with Conrail to reproduce anything they want with the Conrail logo on it?
We may have mentioned that at one point, but it is true. It is a fact.
So here's my plan for next year at Springfield. I'm going to talk to John Sacerdoti, see if I can get Jim Sacco's City Classics tables and keep the tradition going. So I'm thinking we're going to have 3 tables. So you saw how slick our one table was with the table cover and everything. I'm thinking I'm going to get another one like that. And then in the middle, I'm going to have one that says Dave Abley's Onondaga Cutoff and with a big Conrail logo on it.
I think that'd be fun. We should get one of those Conrail flags.
Flags?
Yeah, Conrail had these big blue flags I see online every once in a while. I wish I had one.
Well, go buy one then. Well,
the thing is they're, I don't know. I'm not sure that anybody makes them. It's something I got to look into.
All right.
Especially if there's going to be a table at Springfield. That's an intriguing idea.
Yeah, I thought you'd be a little more excited. All right, never mind.
I think it's great. What do you mean? Wait,
never mind.
How excited should I be?
Well, it was a pretty cool idea.
I think it's a great idea.
All right. And so anyways, we're gonna do that. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So we got our email address, we got our website. And Dave, have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
Yes.
If you go to Midwest Model Railroad and you scroll across the navigation bar to AML and click on that, boom, you'll be in a wonderland of AML merchandise.
Well, hot dogs are good for the soul, especially at a baseball game.
Exactly. And also, if you like this podcast and you'd like twice as much podcasting a week for just 365 payments of 16 cents a day, you can join Patreon, the AML Patreon channel, and you'll get 2 podcasts a week instead of 1. And also, if you want more of Uncle Dave, you can join his Patreon channel because you have a Patreon channel now.
I have a Patreon channel too, Dave Abley's and the Onondaga Cutoff. And if you go to Patreon and search for Onondaga Cutoff or Dave Abley's, it'll pop right up. And I need to figure out what it is for 365 easy payments because that's an important way to put it. But the bottom line is that you can have Onondaga Cutoff at your fingertips all the time, and it's stuff. It's the backstory, guys. It's how we got here, and it's where we're headed. It's a lot of fun to share, and between the AML and the OC, there's a lot of good stuff available.
There is, and it's basically stuff 21 for just 365 payments of 21 cents a day. You can get twice a whole bunch of Onondaga Cutoff stuff.
And a growing collection of same 21 cents a day. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good number.
It's a great number.
Boy, that's a lucky stroke. Every once in a while, you get lucky.
Absolutely. All right. I think that's it. I think we've covered everything.
I think that does it.
All right. So are you going to now? Do you practice the triangle?
No. People get annoyed, so I just usually give it the old college try. I do Triangle Live. It's kind of like Facebook Live, except with the triangle.
At the next Facebook Live, you should have a triangle and just at least
that
hit it
would
once.
Be entirely appropriate. That's a good call.
Just hit it once. What was I going to say to you? Oh yeah. Do you practice the bongos, or do you actually own a set of bongos?
I have bongos and congas.
Congas. Where do you keep those?
Well, they have a little cubby in the attic at this point, the finished attic we have, where I keep I played trumpet, so I have a couple trumpets up there, my little guitar, my whole little musical corner.
Oh, can you play guitar?
I can fool around with it. I'm not any good at it really, but that's something I've always wished I could be better at. So when I retire, I'm going to take guitar lessons.
Oh, don't do it when you retire. There's nothing worse than an old guy that wants to pick up something that he wish he'd done 40 years ago.
Well, maybe Susie will. Maybe I can go play with Susie. You know?
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe
All
Susie
right.
will want to learn this.
All right, let's get out of here.
I'm ready.
So remember, A Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
owners of the Conrail flag.
And the lights all went down in Massachusetts the day I left, standing on the road, trying to hitch a ride to San Francisco. Got to do the things I got to do, and the lights all went down in Massachusetts.
A Modeler's Life is sponsored by Big Ass Maine Potatoes. If you've got a Maine potato, you've got a big ass.
It's another Lincoln Homer.